1. Gore into the open field. He has 2 men to beat to the 25, the 20, towards the corner, touchdown!
16,000. That's how many yards Frank Gore rushed for in the National Football League. In the history of the NFL, 3 men have rushed for 16,000 yards. Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Frank Gore. 2 of them have gold jackets. The third was told to take a seat. February 5th, 2026. The Pro Football Hall of Fame announced its newest class. A quarterback, a wide receiver, a linebacker who played 8 seasons, a kicker, and a running back with 8,189 career rushing yards. Frank Gore, the 3rd most prolific rusher in the history of professional football, wasn't one of them. He didn't even make the final 7. At Coral Gables High School in Miami, Frank Gore set a Dade County rushing record, 2,953 yards and 34 touchdowns in a single season. He was a 5-star recruit, the University of Miami's next great tailback. Then, his knee exploded, twice. 2 torn ACLs before he played a full college season, 2 reconstructions, 2 rehabs. Scouts wrote him off. Draft analysts called him damaged goods. 5 running backs went before him. The 6th running back taken, 3rd round, 65th overall. Ronnie Brewer is retired and forgotten. Cedric Benson died in a motorcycle accident. Cadillac Williams washed out before 30. Frank Gore rushed for 16,000 yards. Here's what Frank Gore did for 16 years. He showed up, he put his head down, and he gained yards every single year. 9 1,000-yard seasons. Only 4 of the running backs have done that. Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, and Curtis Martin. Every single one of them is in the Hall of Fame. He was the first player in league history to string together 12 straight seasons with 1,200 yards from scrimmage. And here's the stat that should end every debate about this man's toughness. After turning 30, the age where running backs are supposed to fall apart, Frank Gore rushed for 7,161 yards. That's 1,300 more yards than Emmitt Smith, the all-time leading rusher. Frank Gore played until he was 37 years old. 241 games, more than any running back in NFL history. But Frank Gore never led the league in rushing. He never had a 28 touchdown season. He never won an MVP, and the voters punished him for it. The Pro Football Hall of Fame has a running back problem, and it starts with one question. What are we actually voting for? Because if we're voting for peak performance, for those 2 or 3 years when a guy was the most dominant player on the field, then yes, Frank Gore doesn't have that. He never had a Shaun Alexander 2005. He never had a Terrell Davis 1998. But here's what he had instead: 16 years of never quitting. Now let's talk about the man who did get a gold jacket in 2026. Roger Craig, a senior committee selection, a legitimately great player. 3 Super Bowl rings, the first man to rush and receive for 1,000 yards in the same season. Nobody's saying Roger Craig doesn't belong, but Roger Craig finished his career with 8,189 career rushing yards. Frank Gore has 16,000. Craig played 165 games. Gore played 241. Craig scored 56 rushing touchdowns. Gore scored 81. The Hall of Fame put a running back with 8,189 yards in Canton and told a running back with 16,000 to wait. Frank Gore has more rushing yards than Barry Sanders, more than LaDainian Tomlinson, more than Jerome Bettis, Curtis Martin, Jim Brown, Eric Dickerson, and Tony Dorsett. Every single one of those men has a bust in Canton. Gore has a thank you note and a maybe next year. They call Frank Gore the inconvenient truth, and the nickname is perfect, because the truth is inconvenient for the voters. He didn't play for a dynasty. His 49ers teams were mostly terrible in the 2000s. He spent his first 6 seasons without a single playoff appearance. When San Francisco finally got good under Jim Harbaugh, Gore carried them to 3 straight NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl. He lost that Super Bowl, and that loss, that missing ring, is the anchor the voters chained to his legacy. But here's what I want you to think about. Barry Sanders never won a Super Bowl. Neither did LaDainian Tomlinson. Curtis Martin never won one as a featured back. They're all in Canton. So what is it, really? Is it the rings? Because Roger Craig had 3 of them, and half of Gore's rushing yards. Is it the peak? Because Luke Kuechly played 8 seasons and walked right in. Is it the highlights? Because Frank Gore didn't have a signature move, he had a signature career. When Frank Gore retired, the 49ers signed him to a 1-day contract and inducted him into their own Hall of Fame. The franchise knew what it had. The city knew. Canton is the one that can't figure it out. Frank Gore rushed for 16,000 yards. He caught 484 passes for another 3,985 yards. He scored 100 total touchdowns. He played in 241 games, more than any running back who has ever played the game. And he did it with 2 reconstructed knees, 2 ACL tears before he even cashed an NFL paycheck. Doctors told him his career might be over before it started. He played 16 years on bad teams, on mediocre teams, on teams that had no business competing, but somehow stayed in games because number 21 kept moving the chains. No flashy celebrations, no holdouts, no controversies. Just a man showing up to work every single Sunday for 16 years and doing the one thing that matters the most in football, putting up yards. In the Hall of Fame, the institution that's supposed to honor the greatest players to ever do it, looked at the 3rd most prolific rusher in the history of professional football and said not yet. But here's what makes this man different from every other snub story we've told on this channel. He didn't complain. He didn't fire off tweets. He didn't go on a media tour and trash the voters. When they announced Roger Craig's name for the class of 2026, a running back with less than half of Gore's career rushing yards, Frank Gore congratulated him. He said he was happy for him. He said Craig deserved it. Because that's who Frank Gore is. That's who he's always been. The guy who doesn't say much, who just puts his head down, who goes to work. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe the Hall of Fame rewards the loudest stories, not the longest ones. Maybe a man who just quietly gains yards for 16 years doesn't make for a sexy enough narrative. But if that's the case, then we have to ask ourselves a real question. What is the Hall of Fame actually for? Is it the Hall of Fame, or is it the Hall of Football? Because if it's fame, if it's about the biggest moments, the flashiest highlights, the stories that make the best ESPN documentaries, then fine, leave Frank Gore out. He was never the most exciting player in the league. He'll be the first to tell you that. But if it's football, if it's about honoring the men who played this game at the highest level, who endured the punishment, who showed up year after year after year and proved they belong, then Frank Gore isn't just a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest to ever carry a football from a longevity standpoint, period. And Canton owes him a jacket. Alright, drop your takes in the comments. If you think 16,000 yards should be enough, I want to hear it. And if you think the voters got it right, tell me why. Because this one is going to be a debate for years. If you're new here, we tell the stories the NFL doesn't want you to remember. The legends, the robberies, and the players who got erased from the conversation. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. This is the Gameday Giants.